A very good evening, everyone.
Good
Welcome to
evening.
the webinar with UPS Online. The title for the webinar today is Crunching Numbers, Crushing Competition, and the Power of Business Analytics, right? How ChatGPT has disrupted the whole era today. So we do have the wonderful panel today with us. I'd like to welcome Paramveer Singh and Dr. Akhil Damodaram. Paramveer is a growth specialist and has a global experience spanning across 16 years into B2B and B2C sectors. Most recently, he has the responsibility of as business head, focusing on growth and strategy looking after the operations and expansion of Max Learning Ventures. So, Paramveer, we do have a little bit common between both of us that we both are into the learning ventures.
Yeah.
And his professional journey has been unique and diverse. In nutshell, if I just say, he was a professional. He's a professional who has taken a leave from steel to school, an MBA from ISB, the Indian School of Business. Paramveer also holds masters in engineering from the University of Sheffield, UK. In past, Paramveer has worked in manufacturing sector, handling multiple roles across various countries. Paramveer, I welcome you to the webinar. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation. We are really excited to having you.
Thank you, Rishabh. Thanks for having me on the panel. Thank you.
We also have with us Dr. Akhil Damodaram. He is highly experienced professional with strong background in telecommunication, IT, aviation, and educational industry. He has been recognized as a winner of the Celebrity 40 Under 40 Supply Chain Achievers Award in 2021. Currently, he's serving as the cluster head emergent vertical in the School of Business at UPS, where he's creating innovative metaverse classroom experience for the students. So Akhil, again, you have a very diverse educational background. You have a bachelor's degree in engineering in electronics and instrumentation from RGPV, apologies, a postgraduate degree in technology management from IIT Delhi, and degree in competition law from NLU Delhi. So that is something which I just discovered about you. So we also have a lot in common because I am a lawyer myself. So
that's great. That's great.
Now it's time I also introduce everyone about myself. Everyone, hi. Again, this is Rishabh Soni. I am the product manager with UPS Online. UPS Online is the digital vertical of University of Petroleum and Energy Studies, which we have been refocused. We have refocused our whole segment of education as University of Tomorrow. And we have a presence of for more than 17 plus years in the online education industry. And we run UGC entitled programs in 15 plus verticals, which combine BBA and MBA courses, along with PGP and diplomas. So again, thank you so much everyone for joining. We will just open the floor and resume with the webinar. So when we were really having this discussion of organizing a webinar, we really thought and we really asked within our team that, which industry do we really focus into? And we saw that one of the verticals which has come up as a very challenging and a disruptive vertical has been business analytics. And why is that? We talk about ChatGPT, we talk about data, we talk about greater emphasis on the real-time analytics, right? So let's hear from the horse's mouth. And Paramveer, over to you. How do you take up on this industry? How has been your experience under your shoes, basically, of handling the business vertical, right? And how do you treat data and how do you visualize the data? So over to you, Paramveer.
Sure. Thank you, Rishabh, and it's great to be here on the panel with Akhil as well. So it's
Same here
to hear his insights as well. We learn every day, and thank you to all the participants. I believe there are about 40 odd participants who've joined us right now. So thank you for sparing your evening and hearing us out. We aim to also learn from you. At the same time, as we share what insights we would have from the industry's perspective. So definitely, Rishabh, as you said, so all of us know there's one problem we all face, and that's the data problem. Is the problem of plenty, and the problem is how to harness it. And that is what, in my work, we are trying to tackle and trying to sort of see it in a way wherein we can take the data, first of all, record it. And then once you've recorded, try to analyze it. And after that, draw insights. And why do we do that? So the main focus area here is because data as a field is immense. Now, what do we want to do with the data? Now, from my perspective, how I saw having a background, most of my background in B2B, and then a few years in the B2C industry as well, it's basically the end goal is the same: to make more sense to the customers we serve, to understand them better, and in a way be more efficient in drawing conclusion on what they need so that we can make products which work for them better. So the entire gamut of data that we have, we've got torrents of data which is available to us thanks to all the data warehousing facilities that have been expanded. So with all the latest innovations in the AIs and the MLs, the visualizations, I would say, so for let's say beginners, visualization, the simplest visualization is our Excel charts, the PowerPoint presentations we do. Or let's say we grow more fancy, somebody does Canva, some people will do even more. So what is all of that doing? It's not just fancy charts and numbers. What it's trying to tell us is we're trying to basically use these as tools to enable us to tell our story better. And once we're able to tell our story better, that is what I feel my experience of using the data. And as we, let's say, continue in the discussion as well, I'll share certain examples of how we've been doing it, whether it is in a production environment or it is in a social media data environment, because many a time we confuse the average user confuses themselves when we call data as social media analytics. And data is so much more than just being social media analytics. So as we go on, I'll probably get a chance to share more. But what I wanted to highlight here is not to miss the core tenet of where do we want to go by using the data. It's eventually to have more meaningful insights, which end up helping us to make better decisions for our business, for our customers.
Perfect. A very clear comparison you have drawn, Paramveer. But if we just try to take a step into holistically into this area, one of the very important question which really comes into our mind about business analytics is that how it is really different from traditional business intelligence, right? So before we really had these tools in our hands, right? But before that, how do you think how the industry has really evolved from the time of being using traditional resources and uh, with less technology? How do you think that has happened and that has evolved?
Sure. So I can share a practical example here of, let's say, how a traditional sales would work in a large setup. Earlier, if you see all the businesses, let's call them any business where you need to go out, reach out to the customer and make the sale. So it's not a medical, let's say it's not a medical shop wherein the people are coming in. You're getting a flow of customers to come to you. You've got to make the effort to make a sale. So, and annually, I'm sure that many of our audiences are also working already, and some might be into sales. So some might understand the nuance of a sales planning process. Now, initially over the years, the sales planning process has mostly been very gut driven. That, okay, so here's my man on the street, here's the feet on the street, the feedback we get, club it with the last couple of years worth of sale, and next year, this is what the number I can give. So that is something which used to be earlier. But now with the advent of data, with the advent of, let's say, computational power, we can put in many factors within. So we can factor in the industry fluctuations. We can factor in the, for example, the raw material pricing. So it need not be so what we used to do earlier used to be, let's say, at the fag end of a 10-stage process, we used to do the stage 8 and 8 to 10 maybe, or 9 and 10, being oblivious to the stages 1 to 8, which is why is the demand fluctuating? Is it because of currency? Is it because of political unrest? Is it because of raw material? Is it because of shipping prices? So all of this used to be hidden, but now, like we said, the good problem is that all of this is available. So once all of this is available, all of that can be factored in, and actually is being factored in into making all these processes more intelligent. If I take the example of, let's say, Asian Paints. Asian Paints, everybody would, let's say, resonate with. So earlier, Asian Paints had a system of every region, every city had their sales managers, and their work used to be to go to the major distributors, get a requirement of them, and basically a pen and paper system. You take the order, okay, these many dabbas, these many liters are needed. They used to order, goes back to the plant. And what has happened now is they've transformed everything online, and they've used these people to do more meaningful jobs. So all the ordering, the selection is now being done through the digitized platform. And how that happens, there's a whole lot of, let's say, the machine learning aspect which has gone behind that. So if anybody is interested, they can read on the Asian Paint digital transformation journey. But this is a classic example, I will say, of how, from 20, 30 years ago, how we used to go and take and see sales as a process, to how it has transformed now, in order to also make the roles of people who are out there more meaningful. So the same salesperson, now they've had a capability enhancement, capability upskilling has happened to them. So they are able to do more meaningful roles and contribute to the company in a more meaningful manner. So this would be one classic example I can say, that, how data, with the advent of data, digital transformation has happened, and how earlier versus now system has greatly changed and reduced the time.
A really informational reference, Paramveer. Thank you so much for that. Akhil, I really also want to ask you on the same question, that when we talk about the scalability, we talk about the flexibility, we talk about cost effectiveness, right? We do understand all that, right? But how these factors are really correlating, as per your point, and are basically increasing the adoption now in today's world.
Okay, first of all, I think let me go back one step behind. I mean, what Paramveer sir said has very rightly said regarding, let me put it first in a state that why business analytics has become such a big important part, and why, like you are asking me right now about adaptability of it, and why adoption is becoming a very necessary part of the companies. Let me take you 10, 15 years back. Okay, now the challenges of the companies at that time was not the analytical tools, but data was not available. I mean, that was the era, 10, 50. I think when me and Paramveer sir was graduating, I think at that time, analytics was a separate domain which used to have its own silos. I mean, the data was not available at all. Okay. Now, when I say data is available, you have to understand why business analytics has become very important. Because every single device today is now connected to internet, which you can also call as, in a sense, IoT. So what happens is everything we do today is converting into data one way or the other. For example, let me put it this way. In 90s, a TV cannot tell what kind of purchase I'm doing. I mean, it's an idiotic thing to talk about. Today, when I talk about an OTT TV, okay, which is connected to an internet, it can do multiple tasks together. I'm not talking about mobile phone. It is already doing it, but I'm talking about my TV. The TV can tell exactly what is my daily life happening at this moment. I mean, at what time, what activities I'm doing, right? Because the point is now data is getting available because now my everyday life is connected to these devices. And moreover, I'm telling you frankly, almost 15 to 20 years back, if somebody wants to do a consensus and that what kind of transaction preferences are done in a village, you need to have a 200 people team coming from a government office. They will go to that village, have a 1 year survey, and they come out with a report. Today, go to a Paytm and ask them what kind of transactions are happening. They will have more data regarding the transaction in a village which is happening more than the banks or anybody else. The demonetization had triggered everybody to go into Paytm mode. Even in villages, I'm telling you frankly. So the reason why data has become such a big thing now, I mean, everything has there's a huge amount of data every single time coming out, because as people are currently more and more into internet, more and more IoT devices are coming in, more and more things are coming in. Your daily life can be converted into numbers. I mean, not numbers, I would say into data. Okay. Now, the point is when I say that Mr. Paramveer has already addressed this point that, then your job is to understand how I can make my customers' lives easy. How can I make sure that I understand what is the next preference will be? How can I understand what is their choices are? How can I understand whether they like my product or not? And all those things becomes part and parcel of your daily job, because that data is now an asset for you. I mean, that is how the whole world has started. So, I mean, that is the main reason why business analytics has become a very important point. Okay. And it's going to grow with time. It's going to grow with time. But having said that, I also want to say that whatever framework which we are discussing today, I mean, not about the presentation I'm talking about, I'm discussing in the world, the tools and all those things like ChatGPT we're talking about. Every 3 to 4 months, you will find more and more new things coming in to address that thing. So, I mean, the most important thing is as a person is, are you able to interpret the data well? And are you able to create a good decision out of data? Now, let me give a negative part of case. Okay. It's done by us. Okay. It's done by us. Okay. So we were doing a forecasting for an airport. Okay. And during the forecasting, we did all the mathematical tools. I don't want to discuss the mathematical tools. It's a boring topic, but anyways, the data was available. We had all crunching data and everything. We did so well. Everything was totally fine. And we said that within 2020, the airport traffic is going to go almost 3 times that what is today. And we were almost right with all the reports around. 20 COVID happens. And all of a sudden, all numbers are actually going out completely. The point is, as I said, I think I'm just speaking what exactly he has said already, that, interpreting the data and creating meaningful decision is still the hard task. I mean, that is where your learning, your leadership, your manager quality, your MBA, everything works. I mean, it's not that what data has come out at the analytics output. I mean, that's okay. I mean, that today it can be automated. But the learning which actually a person needs to have is how to interpret it and create a decision. And then if something goes wrong, how to make sure we tweak it. I mean, that's the hard bound stuff. I mean, Mr. Paramveer also have gone through the same thing in 2019-20 transition. When COVID happened, all of a sudden the whole factors we have thought of is already changed. And keeping a new factors again and creating a new decision within 3 months or 2 months, because now the stakeholder also asks you, what next? I mean, the bets are getting failed, and that's the real world. I mean, that's the real world.
Absolutely.
But the point is, after that, if you look at after COVID, everything is part of data now, because no company wants to take a risk. And now everything is digital. And as soon as it is digital, now every part of everything, even an employee, I mean, I would say daily activity of an employee in every sector. I'm even talking about MSME. I mean, the group he is working or we are working still okay. I understand we can be digital. I'm talking small MSME startups. They also are completely digital. When I say completely digital, that data can tell you exactly what kind of work they're doing, what kind of consumer products they have, what a decision. So as a new leader, I mean, new student, I would say the world in which they're going to swim in the next 3, 4, 5 years of time is the world of analytics. But when I say analytics, I'm not talking about tools. That's fine. That's a fair point. But more important is how you take decision out of it. And I'm telling you, it's more tough and it's more practice. I mean, the reason I am always saying that he should speak first, because he practiced it. I mean, that's most important than, learning the tools. I mean, practicing it is what makes your decision much more important. I mean, now lastly, what you talk about adoption. I think this question doesn't arise anymore that whether business analytics should be adopted. I mean, is there a challenge for adoption? I mean, as soon as in India, if you look at it, as more and more people are getting into data driven, not data driven, I'm talking about in terms of analytics, data driven in the sense internet. As internet is reaching as much places as possible, data is part of everybody's day-to-day life. Now it comes to analytics. There was a time when analytics was very cost sensitive in a sense, but today there are multiple options for many people. I mean, when we work for airports, they have patented proprietary, very expensive softwares, but they can afford it. But the same data processing is possible by open source as well. I mean, so adaptability is not a big issue, as far as I understand. And I think most of the companies are now adopting it. You have more jobs coming in the business analytics domain, as far as I understand. Over to you, sir.
And thus, I think wonderfully addressed Akhil and Paramveer, and thus, again connecting it with the real time importance, because as you said, the important business decisions are determined on these data points, right? The whole planning of their business ventures for their prevalent quarters is basically dependent on what data points are basically presented after they analyze the whole data. So moving further, this is where we really talk about the growth and the great focus, right? So in any order, Akhil or Param, whoever really wants to take this up, how when we see the growing of the analytics, which you have already said that we don't really need to see if the adaptability is really happening or not. But let's talk about the predictability now, right? So when we use the predictability model, how successfully are we able to determine?
I think I will give it to Mr. Param to start. I hope I can call you Param. So sorry.
No, Paramveer is completely fine. So definitely, Rishabh, the point of predictive analytics again, for the benefit of the audience here, I as a user till about a few years back used to be mind boggled by the terms by the shiny words we use. There are 4 kinds of or 5 kinds of analytics, descriptive, diagnostic, prescriptive, predictive, so the bottom line is we need to put buckets so that people understand easier. So predictive analytics was what is going to come next. So the simple thing is what's going to happen next. This is what we're trying to answer. And what we're trying to answer here is also driven by what has happened earlier. And that's what Akhil rightly mentioned, that what next is so closely driven by what has happened earlier, that's where the descriptive and the diagnostic analytics, if we say, which was earlier done and still is being done, also become the very key element. And as far as the, let's call it, the accuracy of predictive analytics, you all would have, or maybe some of you would have heard of sensitivities. Again, sensitivity analysis. There's another analytical term here, sensitivity. We need to build in our model sensitivity. So earlier, let's say for commercials or for any other parameter, you have this plus minus tolerance, no? Even in manufacturing, in sales, you have, okay, plus minus 15%, 10%. So what COVID taught us was also to have a scenario of minus 50 or a minus 100% even. So in cases of, let's say, like COVID, these are outliers, right? So these incidents act more as teachers to us as compared to, let's say, treating them as a major trend setter. If we see ourselves within the first 1.5 years, overall, the entire economy globally had started to pull out of it. So whilst it took time for certain industries to, let's say, catch up more slowly, but now after 2.5 years, we see that we are back to pre-levels. So when it comes to the accuracy of the predictions, I've got one, let's say, mantra, which I always tell my team, garbage in, garbage out. It goes in for a CRM system. CRM
Exactly.
system is, the world is pushing every office of theirs that always, use CRM, input the data. We're pressuring the salespeople on the field, feed in the data. And I myself know, I've seen, how people do it. In some customer visit reports, they say, went, had a tea, came out, had a nice meeting. So, this kind of a data point obviously doesn't do well. So this is garbage in. And that's where we get into a mode of, information asymmetry. And also a lot of information is, let's say, it paralyzes the decision making. So from this perspective, I would say that the prediction is heavily depending on the quality of the data we are inputting for the current trends, and the quality of the data that has been collected from the past. Let's say, let's call them if you're talking about a factory or if it's a factory setting, you've got your past parameters of your production. If it's a sales setting, it's your past year's sales. If it's the insurance industry, it's the insurance premiums you have gathered, the number of users. If it's the telecom industry, it is the ARPU, the revenue per user. So every industry has their different sets of, let's say, terminologies. And the main aspect here being that since the number of touch points has increased, the complexity of the interactions has also increased with the users. And it makes it even harder in a way to make sense of which parameters to be used while we are modeling. So, well, like, Akhil was saying correctly, that even watching television now is in a way influencing the algorithms at the back end, because our televisions are either connected to our Samsung account or a Google account or some account, which is more like, you've got an Aadhaar. Now everything is linked, so everything is known. So it's same. You log in through Google, now everything is known back. So, and then it depends on how deep pockets a particular company would have, what kind of data they want to access, and they would have the let's say access to that. So when it comes to your predictive analytics in terms of the television shows which are made now, more so once the OTT has come on, if you see, the producers are mainly the channels or the OTTs, right? So it's a very simple example I'm trying to share with you, that earlier the producers for movies still are individuals. But for these OTT platforms, it suddenly turned to be the platform is footing majorly the bill. So if, for example, the documentary, the Elephant Whisperers, which we just saw, got the Oscar, if you see, it's been sponsored by Netflix right from so many years. So even the predictive analytics on what kind of documentary would work and when will it come out, even things like these are being governed. So the decision making isn't that, it's not just that, okay, this is a very humane topic, it will do well, let Netflix put money in it. Although, it might seem to be so, but the decision making, when it happens, it takes into factor all of this, that how have the people been viewing these kind of documentaries, how has the response been, not just on release but post the release. But that is when they also need to pay the rights money and royalties to the makers. So all of this goes into it. So the predictive analytics is so much more complex than just predicting what's going to be happening the next or what might happen. So the only counter to predictive analytics is the sensitivity analysis, which we bring in, that if this happens, then this scenario holds good. If something else happens, then there's another scenario which holds good. And that is how practically, if I say, I've been using, let's say, predictive analytics in the field which I have been dealing with.
Perfect. So, like what diverse references you have given, it's the beautification lies there. We already have discussed the adaptability, we have discussed the predictability. Now let's talk about the sensitivity behind this, as you have just concluded on that, right? So, Akhil, as per your, knowledge and your understanding, how the sensitivity has really derived this behind uh, business analytics, how and why it is so important for data privacy and security laws.
Okay, so first of all, I think when I say data, okay, so when I say data, the analytics, the capture, the storage, everything happens centralized somewhere. Okay, so it can be AWS, it can be Google, it can be anything, whatever it was, right? And today, as we are getting more and more closer to data, in the sense our behavior, everything is captured by data. The data has somehow became the part of the topic of privacy. That our data can tell more about ourselves, which we don't want to tell to public. Okay, and to be very frank to you, this was supposed to happen. It is good as well as bad. Good in a sense that means our data is now reaching a point where our data can predict the decisions a human is taking. I mean, we have reached a point. I mean, that's obvious. Everybody knows it. But it also shows that we need to have security laws and other things as well to make sure that the data should not be misused. I think the Facebook allegation or during the election of in the United States during Trump time is a very good example of misuse of data, that they have used the election the voices of customers which are happening in the voices of public which is happening in the Facebook, and use this data to get the election prediction what people are going to favor which party, which was wrong use of the data. 3-4 years back, Google, Facebook were called in the court to address this issue regarding whether what is the data privacy or security you are trying to have in your company. And to be frank, both the companies failed to actually address it. But more importantly, the action was not taken because the law at that time realized that they are far behind the complexities. What Paramveer has already addressed, that the data has become so complex that even defending and going against it with the proof becomes a bigger issue. I'll give you one example. I have two examples, but I'll give you something very older example. When telecom laws happened in India, okay, so TRI Act came in, and there were competitions in the mobile area. 2G came in, and internet somehow became the big thing. And SMS, remember that people used to have bulk SMS and everything going on. At that time, there was an act also added that the mobile applications and other things will be a separate act. It will not be part of telecom. Okay, because TRI never thought of, I mean, it's not TRI's mistake or regulator's mistake, that one day the computer and mobile are going to be one. They never thought of. So what happened as soon as WhatsApp came in, they realized that they're using the carriers, I mean the carriers bandwidth, and eating the SMS versus the business completely without even paying a single penny. Yeah. But they cannot take an action. The reason is, I mean, I hope Paramveer also may agree with me on that. The reason is, as data was getting much more mature, the companies and the complexities and the technology will become so bigger that for the regulators and the lawmakers, even today, mandate an act of one thing, but actually putting on place is a absolutely complex stuff to have. I mean, it's very difficult for them to do it. But privacy and security has become more important. The reason is because that's a question. I think why it's become sensitive, because now I mean this also is a part of my blockchain lecture as well, that data is getting centralized now. Even private also, like Google is maintaining your data, AWS is maintaining your data. Google knows more about you than you yourself know about yourself. I mean, I'm sorry, but the point is, I'm not joking. Subconsciously, you may be just doing something in Google. You may not remember that, but the Google knows it. And the ads which are coming across to your TV or your laptop, the kind of things which is actually predictive analytics, which is happening every single time for you, which is also has demerit, because that data can be sold to somebody else for misusing. Data can be used for understanding something else which should not be required. So I mean, that becomes a bigger issue, that what the public is saying is that data belongs to them. They are the owner of the data. Companies are saying that you chose us, so data belongs to us. I mean, like Facebook, exactly the debate between Facebook and public is that, I never told you to publish your photo. Okay. You publish it, that becomes mine. Now, wow, if it is private, then why are you putting in my portal? Right. And the public is saying that when it is my data, it is my data, no matter what. And that is how that Web3 and decentralized emerging technologies now come up and saying that, it's a decentralized system is required. That's a different topic altogether. But the sensitivity is increased, no doubt. And it has increased so much because the companies knows about you very well. And the recent Google and Facebook allegations which happened in the court really put them on the toes, because whatever the question the court asked, they literally have failed to answer it, because somehow the answer was that they had more data of public which should not be there. But having said that, let me put it as a teacher point of view, that also is a good career perspective in the sense that now I'm saying cyber security in my time when I was graduating was a very niche, small segment of people who are hackers, or you can say ethical hackers. But today that has part of every company possible. I mean, like every company needs to have a cyber security law and cyber security place, and somebody who knows analytics well. I mean, that's also a very important point. So, I mean, it also has its own good point as well. And now cybersecurity bill has come up, which is already there in the parliament.
Exactly.
So there's a huge opportunity going to come up. I'm not talking about because I'm sitting here in the panel. I'm telling you frankly, there's a huge things are going to come up. So I mean, there's a huge.
And the soft reality is that the corporations really accepting this factor now, after this buzz has been really created, after Facebook and Google were dragged to the Senate floor, facing, I think 50 odd cameras, right? And that ended up in media for them, and they had to take some actions behind it, right? So that is something which really created this whole era for taking that sensitivity so seriously.
So I want to take grabbing an opportunity. Sorry. Mr. Paramveer was saying regarding the case of predictive analytics. At that time, I had one small example I want to share with the public, if I may.
Please.
Right. So there's a very special thing which we learned 4 years back. We never knew exactly as hota hai. In airports, if you go inside the airport, you do a check-in and everything. So we were doing work on airport counter optimization. If you see the counters, how to optimize the counter. At what traffic, how much counters are required for an airport. That's what we are doing. At that time, there was a company which was also doing an analytics for them for gate optimization. If you know gate, I mean, after security clearance, you're assigned a gate. ये plane gate to 27 में आएगा, 22 में आएगा. उसमें भी there's an analytics. Now, these airlines like Emirates, Lufthansa, what they do is they try to analyze the traffic data, and they want to see कि उनका जो consumer जो उनका ticket book करा रहा है वो कौन सी दुकान जाता है, वो कौन सा purchase लेता है. तो वो make sure करते हैं कि वो predictive analytics ऐसा हो कि मतलब जब वो consumer जिस store से बहुत ज़्यादा मतलब I mean जिस area में stores ज़्यादा होते हैं, इंटरनेशनल एयरलाइंस का देखना कभी भी गेट उनका उसके बहुत पास होगा, और डोमेस्टिक एयरलाइंस का उतना पास नहीं होगा, क्योंकि the analytics said that these people who are international passengers, they have 4 hours time, so they do more shopping in their in the airport arena. तो इसलिए उनके गेट्स जो होते हैं वो ऑटोमेटिकली, ये मैनुअल नहीं हो रहा है, वो ऑटोमेटिकली वो ऑप्टिमाइज ऐसा किया गया है कि उनके गेट्स should be as close to either the food court or either should be equal to some gold or these areas, because maybe Gulf customer. So उनके gates exactly वैसे assign होते हैं, ताकि I mean this is how the purchasing behaviors are decided in the airport. ऐसा लोग सोचते नहीं, मतलब जैसा I wanted to give a case.
No, it's again a very impactful reference which you have given, Akhil. Definitely, quickly appreciating the time we have and the portion we need to cover. Quickly, Param, if I really talk about the advanced skill set, right? We already have established the basics foundation which is really needed for this industry. Now, talking if enrolling into UPS online MBA, right, Akhil, you already know that how seriously and authentically we take the learning experience for any learner with us, right? So if we try to look at the advanced skill set which we have covered via our curriculum and pedagogy, right? So Param, I think Akhil, you would have more intent into this, right? So how, when you look at these all four factors, how do you think that we are staying up to the date with the latest tools? How do you think we are expertising them in AI and ML, for example, right? In this kind of general industry, how are we building strong businesses, cultivating the soft skills which are needed for the same?
So this question is for mine, sir, or
Yeah, Akhil, I think you can take this because it covers the skills part. So
okay. So let me start with this. First of all, the business analytics course works on three basic principles. Okay, the first is the foundation of analytics. I mean, to make people really understand how to interpret the data, how to understand the data first. Okay. Second thing is how to apply it, and third is how to practice in the industry. Now, when I say how to practice in the industry, we have live projects with the industry partners which we have. So what happens is you understand, you have three things to understand. First is you make your foundations as perfect as possible. Second is you start understanding the application of it by projects and other things. And third, very important part is, are you be able to comfortable to work with the industry on this? So I mean, we have industry partners who discuss about the softwares. They come within the classroom to make sure that you have the lab and other requirements and they provide us case like for example, Mr. Paramveer was already talking about the cases he has handled in the company. In the same way, we have an industry panel who really come and discuss the cases, and then there's a classroom participation to solve this problem. I mean, they have already solved it, but they want to make the students solve. And that's how what happens, you get actually the link between exactly what you're learning and how it is being applied in the classroom. That's perfect. Thing. So it also makes sure that we get updated. Like I was talking about airport to you. The reason I was talking about airport to you, because we as a faculty needs to make sure that we keep updating ourselves. And that's how we do our consulting and other things. But on the more, when we go for these consultings, more than the solution we give to them, which may be 1/10 of their impact for them. But for us, it's a huge learning because we get a lot of things to learn that, whatever we are showing the grade, maybe there's a huge thing that needs to be improved. So every 3 to 4 months, we make sure that those things are added in our course. Or if it is not being able to add it in the course, we make sure it is through the workshop or through industry interaction. These things are part of the students' curriculum. That's a very, very crucial part which we want to do. Regarding AI, ML, and analytics. Now, let me put it this way. The legacy courses like analytics, predictive analytics is a very normal course. I mean, for 4-5 years, is running across. We also have advanced analytics like AI and ML, in which we also have tie-up with the computer science faculties as well, who try to, because see, now the time has come. This is very crucial part what I'm trying to say. If you're not a BTech or if you're a BTech has no meaning. I mean, in terms of when it comes to the MBA analytics, I mean, as a product manager, even if you're not having an engineering background, you still need to understand the data. That's a fact. I mean that era has gone when we can bifurcate between two people. No, it's not.
I'm the live example.
Yeah. So I mean, no, seriously, like you're a lawyer, very important. When a court case comes to you regarding two different telecommunication companies are fighting for patents, how can you understand that when you know exactly what is happening? I mean, so I mean, data technology is now not a different science. It's a part of our daily work. I mean, so I mean, everybody has to know. There's no choice. And even if you're not part of business analytics, still you don't have a choice. I mean, as a career course, I mean, finance has become fintech. So I mean, where are we? So I mean, the time has come that bifurcation is not required. So we make sure that the student understand the basics of data also very well. I mean, how the codings are also done sometimes. I mean, just to get a basic, just to give an understanding. What are things actually? See, when you become product manager, you may have to handle many different aspects of it. So at least to give an exposure is very, very crucial for the students. So we make sure that there's a cross-interdisciplinary pedagogy for the students to make sure. That's from my side.
Thank you, Akhil, for answering that. Now, since we don't have a really good time left, so I would like to jump on to the question and answers round. which our learners have really put in. So I think I put one question to Param at this juncture. So Param, Akshaya Pandey is asking that he's working in Hindalco. So he's a quality assurance department. As an MSc in physics background, now, and looking at the career growth with the data analytics tool in courses like MBA. So do you think by like he taking an MBA course would solve his uh, learning experience and will get him to that goal
Sure.
which he really wants to?
Sure. So Akshay, I understand where you're coming in from, and please see that when it comes to a role of a business analyst or a data analyst or a data scientist, this is not only purely number crunching. So what data does is it basically, if you see, is helping to put all the stakeholders together. So this is what data is the glue that everybody all across the company comes together. So from if that is the main work, then what do you think is the first thing that we have to be good at? It is not just the numbers, it is the collaboration. It is how to work well within a team. And from what I understand, having done an MBA myself, what I also see is that the core tenet of the project management, which basically goes into any company. I'm sure at Hindalco, in the QA team, you already would be doing it. And a company as big as Hindalco, they might be having their own project management module that maybe you guys go through. But doing a professional course outside, like a one which UPS is offering, what it helps you also to do is it gives us framework which basically helps us to do things in a more structured manner. When it comes to the numbers part, the tools part, see, the numbers will be taught in a similar fashion wherever you go, but it is these aligned softer skills, if somebody says, so from what I understand, we also have quite good, let's say, analytics, and at the same time an equal, if not more, stress is also given into the agile project methodology, the collaboration working. So all of those become even more important, because numbers is just one thing. I'm sure you don't want to work, let's say, 5 years, 10 years down the line in an IC role, wherein you're just an independent contributor sitting somewhere and just crunching numbers. In fact, going forward, there might not be roles like that. In fact, just today, very interestingly, I was seeing a cartoon. So it was basically two people playing outside of a data warehouse, and the voice comes in from the warehouse saying, "Why aren't you working?" And the programmer says, his dialog box says, "The chat GPT is down." So imagine, so we're not in that world anymore. That we'll have only silos working, or only ICs who do not, let's say, have to interact with other people, who do not have to be adept in project methodologies or working well with people. So all of these, I've understood that these are also the areas which the UPS course university does quite well, and definitely something of this sort with your data analytics physics background. So you're already into quants with physics already. So this should definitely be a very big plus to the profile. And because more and more companies like Hindalco, let's say, like the Tatas, they are importing people who are pure play data analysts, because you don't get a, let's say, a Hindalco, let's say, if you're into a specific metals, or you're into a specific chemical, you don't get people from those coming into analytics and only being restricted to that particular company sphere. So if you have this particular skill set, that can then plug and play into many industries from that matter. So I would definitely recommend that after having a few years worth of work experience, a course like this will definitely help you to take the next level.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Param, for answering that in such a good detail. With the one other question which I would like to take now, since with the time in the contention is, David Minyock is asking that based on the predictive analytic, how can someone predict all revenue that is determined by price and quantity of a barrel for any country that depend oil as a source for revenue? So anyone, Param or Akhil, whosoever wants to take this
I
question.
think Param sir can better answer this.
So this is a problem question, for which companies pay a few $1,000. So this is a model which you're asking to be made. So David, good to see your question here. So on a more serious note, it won't be as simple as a two-dimensional model here, which let's say where the predictive analytics works. So when it comes to predictive analytics, there is a host of other information that are also going in, and but it definitely is being done and can be done. I don't know if you're currently working or you're currently a student, but if you're currently working, then definitely this is something which the BI teams in each company, and I know I'm also quite familiar with the oil and gas company data, let's say background, because I've worked with them in my earlier life. So they have massive amounts of data which helps you to structure your analytics on those parameters. So let's say in case you would want to have a more detailed discussion on this, we could even take it offline. You can look me up on LinkedIn and I could guide you to the respective people as well. But definitely, yes, you can. The short answer is yes, you can, but not in the remit of a 15-minute Q&A.
Perfect. So I think, it sums up our conversation, but just to take very quickly, since we have already discussed these trends, maybe I would like to summarize this, that how we are moving towards this industry with these common trends. Param and Akhil, you already, in detail, gave a very good stance on the predictive analytics, right? So that is the one way of doing that, right? And then there is a great focus on the data visualization, right? So the dashboards and analyzing that through the dashboard, right? And getting that data into the right basket, which is required. The other key thing I would like to, just summarize it, that again, the agility and the flexibility, right? So of course, with the COVID-19, which has demonstrated the big importance for us, right? And has changed the circumstances altogether, has given that flexibility to the businesses itself. With the increased investment in the cloud-based analytics, with Akhil, you much focused upon with the AI and the ML machinery also. So again, I think any concluding statements which you really want to make at this point, Param and Akhil, over to you.
So I'll just leave all the participants with a quick thought. It might seem like a homework, but it'll be very interesting for everybody. In this coming 2023, just since you all are interested in this field, that's why you're attending the webinar late in the evening. Just try to find out, what do you think are the next big things that are going to happen this year when it comes to AI, ML, or the visualizations, and you'll be blown. I know, because I was reading up on this few let's say weeks back. One application was just surreal for me to even imagine. It is something called bioprinting. We've all heard of 3D printing. Now I read up on bioprinting. Bioprinting is, as simply put, printing skin. Imagine. So this is the next level of biocomputing using the AI ML, which we can achieve, that tomorrow, maybe this year onwards, and experimented upon, let's say in a couple of years more time, this will be a commercial thing available, that we can print human skin. So this is something which really took my thinking to a whole new different level. So maybe this will be a very interesting read up for all of you, that what are the trends, what are the things that you think AI ML will do within 2023 for us.
Thank you again. Thank you so much, Param, for that. thought. Akhil, or would you like to add anything?
No, I think I mean, me adding it, it's like repeating what Mr. Param has already said. So, I mean, I would really say that the student should really look at what is happening in the world at this moment. And let me also add to this fact that every 6 months will be a surprise for
Yes.
people, because the way things are happening, Chat GPT 3 came, now 4 happened,
Sure.
and the way generative AI is moving, I mean, you will find surprise every 6 months.
Yes.
So as Paramvi has very rightly said that, as a practicing manager, your job is not just to interpret data, but to align with your team, work with the team, deploy a particular project. I mean, those are the critical areas which you should be very much focusing on rather than the tools. I mean, tools you should learn, no doubt. I'm not denying that fact, but it will keep changing every 6 months. I mean, the things which you needed pen and paper, it will automate automatically. So
And
those
and
formulas,
that.
yeah, I'm telling you frankly, for me, it's very worrisome because I work for ATL Labs for Niti Aayog. So the school children's, today, because he was talking about the bioprinting. So a sixth standard student is working on 3D printing. Okay, the lab was given by Government of India, and they are creating everything on 3D. At sixth standard, I remember बाल भारती का हिंदी का किताब हमारे पास आता था, और हमारा जिंदगी, I mean, I'm joking, I'm not joking. The world is changing. The
Yes.
new future leaders which are coming in, and the way the world is moving is unpredictable completely.
Yes.
So keep your eyes and ears open. And I think the only thing in every field for that matter, you should always be a learner, and you should have the courage to relearn. I mean, the problem with age is that you forget how to relearn. I mean, that's your knowledge is everything. I mean, I want to really quote one thing. I mean, Satya Nadella said, I'm a teacher, so I take a lot of time. Sorry. So Satya Nadella once said, when he became a CEO, that, I'm privileged that, I have Bill Gates in Microsoft. But the demerit is everybody thinks I'm a Bill Gates in Microsoft. So, I mean, that's exactly the problem with, so it's always important that what you know may not be relevant at all tomorrow. So it's better to always be a learning attitude. That's most important. Thank you.
Perfect. And since you just ended up in such a good note about learning and the experience, I'm sure that UPIS Online for these learners would be able to curate that with their pedagogy and the learning experience altogether via our MBA program. So again, thank you so much, Akhil, Dr. Akhil Damodaran, and Paramveer. Thank you again so much for the the context and the center stage which you both did set during the conversation. And for the people who did join us, thank you so much again for joining. Please drop in any comments, any feedback you have. Our team is more than happy to reach out to you with their own responses. And in order to have any query on the program, please call our toll-free number, which is 1-800-103-1495. So on that point, I would like to close this evening. And again, thank you so much everyone for joining.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Paramveer, for this nice conversation. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.